don't know if anybody's here, but I'll be right back. I'm gonna get a light. Is that better? It's a little better. Hello. I turned on a light, but it's kind of far away. So hopefully it's not too ridiculously grainy because of my webcam. Because I'm just using my webcam. Everybody here for a cozy stream. I have Chai the beverage, not Chai the ferret. Legally distinct from Chai the ferret. Naming our ferret after a popular beverage may not have been the smartest idea ever, but who cares? Everybody's naming their cat Oreo, so why not? I tried to get Adam to be in the stream with me, but he did not want to. Do you like the grapes? They were there when we moved in, and we're like, I guess they live here now. Those are our grapes, our stealing grapes. My cat is named after a supervillain. Which supervillain? You can't just like reveal that your cat is named after a supervillain and then not tell us who. Come on now. All of our pets have nerdy names. My cats are Special Agent Phyllis J. Coulson and Loki. Loki is a pretty solid name for a cat or a ferret. Oswald Chesterfield Copplepot, aka the Penguin. Oh, I see. He's a tuxedo cat. I am very clever. I see. I have never had a tuxedo cat. We have owned cats my entire life, and we never wound up with a tuxedo. Tabbies. Tabby cats for days. Brown tabbies. Brown and white tabbies. Orange tabbies, tabby cats, as far as the eye can see, is what we've had. And Nigel, he's a black cat with black cats. Tuxedo cats have eluded me. Can't stay just saying hello. Hey, Puppet Master. Hello and goodbye. Yes, indeed. I don't have any expectations for this stream. This is just vibing because I have energy. I have excess anxiety energy because I'm trying to start my business and my brain does not like to wait. So like I've spent the day like researching and trying to promote and everything, my new editing services, and but you know, that doesn't automatically mean you get business right away. So my brain is like, we didn't do enough. And I'm like, I don't know which more you want. I've always wanted a tuxedo and a calico. Oh, I've had calicos and torties. They have yet to cross my path. Yeah. Oh, I love calicos and torties. Some of the most opinionated cats, like, they all sound like this. They all sound like, meh! Like they all want to speak to the manager. You know how orange cats only have one brain cell and they have to share? Torties and calicos are the boss babes of the cat world. He's our family first cat in years. I didn't get to know the old ones. Aw. Very overwhelmed. Yeah, some cats can get very overwhelmed. I don't know how the pets work in this household. It's insane. Like, we have so many pets and they all get along. So Chai the ferret is a little bit afraid of Giorgio the cat because Giorgio can be a little intense and Chai is shy. Moraine, the other female ferret, she knows that she can just boss the cat. She can just like bite the cat's toes and the cat will leave her alone. But Chai doesn't know that yet. So, oh, hey, Giorgio, did you hear me say your name? You want to come over here? No, maybe not. I'll get closer, but I'm not going to actually come over here, says Giorgio. Giorgio the Emperor. All our pets have nerdy names. Giorgio is named after a Star Trek character. Kaylee the dog is from Firefly. Lan and Moraine are from Wheel of Time. Chai obviously is just named after a beverage. We decided to break with tradition for her. And Nigel is actually just Nigel. He's not any specific Nigel. He sort of encompasses all Nigels in all of time and space. Went from one household with just me and my parents to two. And just me and my siblings and a menagerie. Too much for an autistic little bean. Yeah. The platonic ideal of Nigel. Yeah, pretty much. Hello and good night to you as well, Jose. Jane was also a Firefly reference. He was the man they called Jane. It suited him. He was kind of big and dumb. But sweet. Secretly sweet, but big and dumb. He was very much a Jane. So tell me more about your business. I'm so determined to finally complete my book. I hope you do complete your book, and I hope that I can get this off the ground enough. So many people are like, I'm gonna use your editing services as soon as I finish my book. And I'm like, I hope you can, because I only have a month to at least be able to get one full editing gig, because otherwise I'm gonna have to go to back to regular job, and then I won't have time to edit for people. So, but yeah, I'm a developmental editor now. You know, that stuff that I do on my YouTube channel where I tear books apart, but in a constructive way. Now I can do that for you, but for money. Unfortunately, I do need to charge money for my services, but you're going to get something very thorough. You're going to get something very thoughtful. It's not like a lot of editors, developmental editors, they just have a letter at the end where they just kind of tell you their overall thoughts. I cannot do that. So it's going to be in the text. It's going to be notes, macro, micro, everything, sentence level. You know what I do for my read-alongs? It's that, but nicer. Like in my read-alongs, I make fun, but I don't do that when I'm developmentally editing. Oh, look, an excellent time to plug your video. Is there a minimum amount of pages you require for the editing? No. No. I'm on Fiverr, and the link is in my link tree, which is attached to this stream. What am I doing? I almost called this a video. My brain is not working. But we can work out however many words you want. And I do give you a deal for your first 5,000 words. It's only $25. So if you just want to be like, I want to see if I like this, just $25 for your first 5,000 words. And then you can find out if you even like my editing style. I'm assuming that means notifications don't work. RIP. Yeah. But if you do get the full editing, we talk about it and we figure out how many words you have, what is the price going to be, because Fiverr doesn't really have a slot to put all of the price ranges. So basically you just message me and we create a custom deal where I tell you how much it's going to cost, because it's impossible to predict. Everybody's book has a different number of words. So, but yeah, and I am still doing it on Ko-fi as well. The first 5K for $25 if you want to just get a feel for it. And everybody's been super pleased. So that's really cool. I've been 0 people who talked to me afterward and were like, I hated this and all your advice was terrible. So that's good. I love that I'm doing this too. What, the stream? Or the trying to start a small business, or just kind of existing in general. I love all of that, though. Both. Okay, good. I really hope I can get it off the ground. It took me way too long to figure out what I wanted to do, because I was like, I know I want to be a freelancer. I know I don't want to go back to working for idiot bosses who do not tell me like useful. I've worked for so many people who are just dumbasses, quite frankly. So I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I want to freelance. And I kept rolling over and over in the months that I have been out of work working on the house, just rolling over and over. What are things that I'm good at? What are things that I could do? And I kept discounting developmental editing because of imposter syndrome. I just kept thinking, I'm not good enough for that. I'm not smart enough for that. But then I was like, wait, it's basically what I do for all of my read-alongs. And I've been developmentally editing my own books for years. Why would I be bad at that? Actually, I think maybe I'm good at it. And then I just managed to like kick imposter syndrome out for a hot minute so I could try to get this off the ground. But unfortunately, I did it like at the exact like last minute. I got until the end of this month to try to get it off the ground. And that's not great. I wish I had thought of it earlier. Are you mentally ready for Zodiac Academy? I'm reading it already. I've started it. You won't see any videos for a little while because I like to get halfway through the book before I start posting videos so that I have some cushion in case something happens. Your existence is stellar. My existence is all right. It's all right. It's like that line from Firefly where Mal's like, I'm a good man. Or I'm a great man does this, a good man does this. Well, I'm all right as he keeps stabbing. That's me. I'm here. I was about to take a nap, so I'll probably fall asleep. Fair. Very fair. But yeah, I have a heated blanket, so we are very cozy tonight. It is cozy all the way around. Nigel is over here. You can't see him. Jojo is over there. She came closer, but she did not actually come to hang out with us. But yes, Zodiac Academy is in the works. And while it is bad so far, it's not the worst thing I've read. Cyborg, so far, it might get worse. But Cyborg Tinkerer, worse than Zodiac Academy so far. The Ables, worse than Zodiac Academy so far. I am only a few chapters in, but so far, I have read worse. My dog is sleeping on my legs. My legs are asleep. And of course, you can't move because that's against the law. If an animal is sleeping on you, you must remain still. The other night, I was laying on this couch here watching TV, and Giorgio came up and she laid on me, and she never lays on people. She's not a lap kitty. So I was like, oh, I have been blessed. And then she started purring, and I was like, I can't move now, ever again. I live here now on this couch. And it kept like getting later and later. And my husband comes down and he's like, are you coming to bed? And I'm like, gesturing to this cat that's like laying on me with her head like right on my chest. And I'm like, do you see the situation I am in? I cannot move. Eventually, I did have to very gently coax her off because Adam was like, will you please come to bed? She hasn't sat on me since, but it was a blessed moment. Oh my God, the Ables was nasty. Yeah, the Ables was, like, I still think back on it, just how poorly written it was. Just the prose, on a prose level, it was so bad. And like the Cyborg Tinkerer too, on a prose level, so bad, but like more entertainingly bad. Like the Cyborg Tinkerer at least was bonkers, whereas the Ables had bad prose and it was boring. And that's a combination you don't want. Like, at least be bonkers. A Night in Its Moon was something. It certainly was. And everybody wants me to read, well, I say everybody, like 2 people want me to read the next book. And I have a friend who has purchased me a copy and is going to give it to me to read. And I am afraid. Mostly because the author is back on her bullshit and harassing reviewers again. And I don't want her and her posse of obnoxious haters to like 1-star bomb all of my books because they could destroy my Goodreads. I'm hopefully not giving people ideas if anybody's watching this and they hate me, but like all it would take is one mild like 1-star bombing and my books would be destroyed. So I'm nervous to poke the bear, but I'll probably do it anyway because I have no common sense. Yeah, the next book is out. Yeah. Arc for book 3 is out. God, I didn't even know that. You want more Ables? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would rather die. She's written a lot of books that have already been picked up. Who the person who wrote The Night and Its Moon? She writes fast. I will give her that, but she does not edit well. She does not take critique well, and apparently she's just back on her shit harassing reviewers. So we don't do that. We don't do that. I don't care like what a reviewer says in their review. We do not harass them. I don't know why that's difficult for people, but some people, they have trouble with that. Hey, Scribble Doll. I wish I could write that fast. Yeah, I can draft pretty fast, but then I hit a wall editing, and it's just like, because I actually believe in editing my books. Mean jab at all of the people that I do read-alongs for, but yeah, and that takes me a long time. I'm a very slow editor. I've read the sequel to Night and Its Moon, and it was slightly less painful, but didn't need to exist, in my opinion. Yeah. I don't know if y'all have watched Reads with Rachel talk about it. She's like the number one target for them harassing reviewers right now, or at least the one that I hear the most about, because I follow her, so I hear about it. But she did a review, so go watch that. Make it worth her while with the ads play. Yeah, she writes fast, but her editing is done by her friends and fans. Mm-hmm. Editing is done by her friends and fans. I think too far ahead and get nervous that my story isn't good, and I'm constantly scrapping and rewriting all the time. I don't know what it is, but when I'm actually drafting a book, I have complete confidence most of the time that it's pretty solid. I do get into like self-doubt spirals every now and then where like this is shit, this is shit. But when I'm actually sitting down and writing it, very confident. Like when I step away from it, I'll be like, oh, this is shit, this is shit. But I can't stay away because it's my addiction. So like it is useful to have a weird self-confidence every now and then. But also just the simple knowledge that you're gonna go back and fix it. Doesn't have to be perfect now. I know from experience with myself that I always catch stuff in editing and fix stuff in editing. So I don't worry super much about the drafting because I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. It's going to be fine. Love Reads with Rachel. Yeah. She's my jam. Like I'll be watching a different YouTube video, and if hers comes up, I will stop watching the YouTube video I'm currently watching and go watch hers instead. I'll go back to the other one later, but I'm writing a book for the moment. I'm in chapter 4 of the first draft. Hey, chapter 4 is still somewhere. Chapter 4 is better than chapter 1. I need to push myself along more for writing, but I'm too busy with other stuff, and I'm still trying to find the energy and time. It is really tough. When I was working full time, I got about an hour of writing a day, and I did it in a cleaning closet because I was a cleaner. And I just like on my lunch break, write my book because I didn't have energy or time before work, and I didn't have energy after work. So I was like, it's got to be during. So sometimes you've got to figure out like when your brain wants to write, and like try to force some time, no matter how little in there. Now that I'm not working full time, I'm actually drafting less because I'm happier. And when I'm happy, I don't need writing as much because writing is how I cope with stress. And if I'm less stressed out, I don't need to write as much. So it's kind of a catch-22. I wrote a bit over 50K words for a book and then wanted to change too much and sort of scrapped it. Just can't make up my mind. That's tough, but it happens. And not every single thing I start to write turns into a book. I just kind of like, I don't make myself stop if I've finished a book and I've got like free time to write a new one, because I can only write one at a time. I start whatever I feel like, and if it doesn't turn out to be interesting, I stop and I start something else. I'm a patron of Rachel's, and the Discord server is so much fun. That's devolved too much, but we do love you there too. Aw, Thanks, guys. She did actually invite me to the Discord server, and I completely forgot. I should really ask her if she still extends the offer, because I was just like, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo. Yeah, that sounds cool. And then I just carried on like a dumbass that I am. I'm a college student. It's almost time for finals, so I've got a lot on my plate. Oh, gosh. Yeah, finals. Mm-mm. I never went to college. Spoilers. But my sister is right now, my youngest sister. And I'm just like, you're crazy. But she's doing everything. She's in like all of the things, all of the clubs, all of the like. She was in college for like 2 seconds and had joined like 80 clubs. And I was like, who are you? Because I am very introverted and she is not. And it's like, where did you come from? Something discovered recently with scrapping is that I'll have multiple versions of the story and work on whichever one I feel like, that's an interesting method to do it. I will go full Avatar cabbage vendor. My cabbages! Low key, wish I never went to college. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I should have, because it would give me more credentials. Like now, when I'm trying to be a freelancer, it would be nice to be able to be like, and I have an English degree, but I don't. But also, you don't really need one necessarily to be a developmental editor, because an English degree is not going to necessarily teach you what a story needs. Like, yeah, I don't know the more nitty gritty like copy editing stuff, but I don't need to because I'm not a copy editor. So I pay someone else to do my copy editing for me. Also, regarding writing, I'm a chronic book juggler. If I focus on only one, I will abandon it. I'm the opposite. I am the opposite. If I do more than one book at a time, I will fail and just abandon them both and just flounder and struggle and be like, it's something in my brain. It goes, that's too much. We will do nothing. So I learned early on that if I wanted to finish books, I had to do one at a time. So I made a very strict rule for myself, one at a time. I can edit and draft, but I can only draft one book at a time. Let's see. What's going on in the writerly world that we should talk about tonight? In creative writing degree, and the only thing it's really been helpful for is the mandatory feedback from my peers. Forced feedback from your peers is very helpful. Sometimes it is quite difficult to get feedback from people, and if a school is making them give you feedback, that's very helpful. That's why I love anytime I can find like a critique group or something. I am all about it because I'm like, yes, read. I shove my books at people. My friends are sick of it. I'm like, read it and tell me what's wrong. Read it and tell me what's wrong. Yeeting my book at people, like, please tell me how to fix it. Because even though I can developmentally edit other people's books, I still obviously need betas and stuff, because when it's your book, you just can't notice stuff as well. You just don't. That's just a fact. How's business so far? Still early days. When I first offered the first 5K words on Ko-fi, it was going gangbusters. I was getting like 2 requests a week. It was going great. And now it's kind of tapered off. So I think like I've reached the edge of my reach, and anybody who had stuff that they wanted me to critique and also $25 to spare have kind of tapered off. But for a minute, it was going really good, which filled me with confidence. But now it has slowed down, and my confidence is like, being a freelancer is not for the faint of heart. I wouldn't count on a college degree for fiction, especially. Yeah, writing is one of those jobs that you don't need a degree for. It can be helpful in a lot of ways, but you don't need one. Connections and friends. Yeah, making connections and friends is good. I have 0 connections, so that is a disadvantage. I don't make friends easily, and I have 0 connections. My sister is also going to school for art, and she's loving it. She's so much better of like a 2D artist than I am. It's absurd. It is absurd. the levels. Like I'm way down here and she's so far up that she's not even in the house anymore. She's that very, very skilled artist. I got to commission you, but I got to tidy up my work so it's worthy and ready. Don't worry too much about it. It doesn't have to be super tidy. In fact, I like it a little bit untidy because then I feel like the author isn't so attached to it. If something comes to me really tidy, it kind of tells me that the author has put a lot of polish and work into it and is probably very attached to everything in it and therefore will not be open to my suggestions. So I like a little bit of mess. I don't mind seeing a little bit of mess. I'm not going to make fun of you for your spelling errors and stuff because that would be the pot calling the kettle black. My drafts are atrocious. I don't even know how I have beta readers anymore because like some of them are very sweet and they do point out all of my spelling errors. And like, so I'll go and I'll open their doc that they've sent back to me. And it's just like wall to wall, like comments on the side of them correcting my errors. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so bad at this and I'm so sorry. Yeah. So don't worry about having to look super clean on my account. It's like, don't clean your house for me to come over because my house is also a mess. Oh, criminal justice. Hello. I don't know what to do with either. Actually, I feel like those two things work pretty well with each other if you want to be a writer. English and criminal justice, all the writers are going, yeah, that sounds really useful, actually. Gonna get into being a crime scene tech, but then the health issues. My drafts are a train wreck. Same. Sometimes I look at my drafts and I'm like, is this even in English? I type very fast. I'm a sloppy fast typer because it took me a really long time to get my hands to keep up with my brain because I'm a pantser and my brain is just going da 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 da. And so much of my life, I still have memories of being frustrated about how slow my hands were in comparison with my brain. And now I've pretty much got them on the same level as each other, but it is sloppy as hell. Like barely in English. I'm going to psychology, so maybe that helps. I had a guy, kind of a jerk, but there was a guy that I knew in my theater who told me that I could not that I like should check it out. He said I could not be a writer unless I took psychology in college because he's like, you can't understand people unless you take psychology. And I'm like, I don't think that's how that works, but okay, guy. Sure. But I'm sure it comes in handy. You just don't need it. Sorry, I'm like peering weirdly. It's because I'm trying to read the chat. Squinting in the low light. I'm a serious overwriter, and my drafts are basically in Mojo Jojo's voice. Literally one of the main reasons I chose criminal justice was because one of my books is a murder mystery series. That's what I'm saying. You wouldn't have to have the weird... Well, you probably still would, but you wouldn't have to have as much of the weird like search and like results if you already have learned a lot of it in school versus the rest of us are looking up all that criminal justice stuff. What is question, Bluebird? Messy stuff can be fun. Yeah. I guess messy stuff is a fact of life for me, so. Anthropology has helped me. That, yeah. Oh, the psychology guy's nonsense. Yeah. He was a weird dude. He was a weird dude. Very strange man. I'm an underwriter with my drafts, so I'm literally like, she picks up the sword and uses it. She walks away. It reminds me so much of I have acted in a lot of Shakespeare, and because Shakespeare wrote like specifically for his own company, he like knew their strengths and he knew what he didn't have to like plan out. Like for example, the fights, those were none of his business. Those were the fight choreographer's business. And so in Shakespeare plays, when two characters begin a fight, it just says they fight. And the fight choreographer is meant to come up with that, with the whole fight, and figure out what lines are integrated into the fight and all that stuff. And I just love it. I love it. Because Shakespeare was kind of an overwriter, but there he was like, that's not my thing. They fight. I am a little bit of an underwriter sometimes too. I do have to go back in and beef up, mostly on a sentence level, like beef up some of that stuff versus necessarily on like a plot level, but I can be a bit of an underwriter. Cheesy pun river. Cheesy Here a crime scene tech would be interesting but tough to do. But a crime journalist could be good too, being able to bridge the gap between the horrors and the public. Man. My most interesting Google search for that book has been on the origin of the word flashback. It was not used to refer to time until after 1899. I actually had to look up the F word, which I probably cannot say because YouTube will get upset with me. But in my book I only have like one more chapter to edit of Adventure of Mage before I could start getting it ready to actually come out, hoping it comes out this month. But I had a beta reader who was like, I don't know if they would use the F word because that sounds too modern. And I'm like, I need to know because my book is set loosely in magical Victorian England. And they did use the F word, but it was mostly at that point to refer to the act of sex. So, but very shortly after, like, my book is sort of set, it started to be used as a swear word. So I was like, you know what? In my magical universe, they started to use it as a swear word just a little bit sooner. That's the beauty of magical England. So yeah, I had to look up the origin of the F word, the common usage of the F word in Victorian England. Yeah. By the way, I'm here with a cat who is criminally soft and would like everyone to know. Excellent. Good. Very good. Nigel is within petting range, but he is also asleep, and I don't want to wake him and startle him. My brain sees stories as filmed, and I get frustrated because I can't get it out of my head and on the page. My brain sees stories as films too, and I legitimately have no idea how I translate it out. I wish I could tell you how, but it's sort of like trying to explain pantsing to somebody. Typey book. I have a very visual brain as well, and it sees everything as movies. And I guess I just kind of describe the movie. I don't know. My first draft is disgusting, but the alternative is spending is so long in a paragraph that the sun will explode before my first draft is done. Yep. Flashback was originally a fire thing. Ooh. Nice. Interesting. Just don't mind me reading the chat. I feel like being creepy, just like looming over the chat. Like, what is everyone saying? It's so tough when you can see, but you can't put it into words, especially with a description of characters. The Tiffany problem. What is the Tiffany problem? Explain to me. I am dumb. Yuakamo. Julian stares at you. That's the whole live stream. Like Wednesday Addams, I don't blink. Como planning and pantsing. I plan the world with a lot of detail, but I pants the actual story a lot of the time. Yeah. I kind of let the world unfold as I pants the story, so I think I'm more of like a True Panzer, you know, in the D&D alignment chart. True Panzer, maybe. Or like lawful Panzer. I don't know. Tiffany is medieval name, but it sounds very unmedieval. Oh, yeah, there are a lot of names like that. Like there was one name that was biblical, and it sounds like just like a white girl name from Jersey, you know. And I was like, wow, okay. Some words sound modern but aren't. Yeah, and I try to keep my language as fitting to the world as possible when I write fantasy. Like obviously it's fantasy, so like if the etymology of a couple of words is off, I don't have a big problem with it. But I do try to avoid my characters saying things like, I don't know, he got there at the speed of light, because they wouldn't, you know, or I don't know, I can't think of any right now, but I watch out for those little like phrases that we use that we don't think about, because like we understand them now, but they wouldn't have in magical Victorian England. Some people don't care if that is in their book, especially if it's not actually historical, but I do. I just feel like fantasy should kind of have a certain tone, or at least my fantasy should have a certain tone, where the reader is never drawn out wondering how the character knows about insert whatever. Time travel is the only reasonable explanation for Tiffany. Yes, time travel confirmed thanks to the name Tiffany. On wording in contemporary language, I'm in the process of getting the timeline just right, so some characters speak more formal, fancy, medieval, and some sound more modern. Just simple words can throw you out of a story if you don't think about where they came from and why we use them. I'm a pantser to the extreme. I don't even have an ending or a plot. I just follow my characters doing things. I'm almost at that level. I usually know the ending. I usually have to know the ending. But for the most part, otherwise, I just follow my characters around. And a lot of times I have like a couple of scenes that I'm hoping they get to. But sometimes they get to that point and that scene doesn't work anymore. And I'm just like, well, okay. But in Adventure Mage 3, story time, there was a moment where I had gotten the characters like as far as I had a tentative plan for. And I still knew the ending, but I there was like a lot between where they were in the ending, and I was like, what do I do? And then I just threw a monster at them. I just invented a new monster and threw it at them. The delights of a fantasy book. And it worked, and the monster turned out to feel like it totally belonged and worked in the plot. So yay. When in doubt, throw a monster at your characters. I tried to plan a new fantasy mystery story, but the names aren't coming to me. Names are weird. Sometimes my characters come complete with names, and sometimes they're like, hi, I'm here, please name me. And a lot of times I use baby name websites. I'm less picky about names as far as like anachronistic language. I just want your names to kind of at least sound like they belong together, but I'm not going to be mad if you use like a French name in a fantasy England setting with no explanation for how or why. I don't care. Just as long as it just sounds like it fits. It doesn't draw my brain out of the reading experience. But I do use a lot of baby name websites, and then the internet thinks I'm pregnant and tries to advertise diapers to me. Oh no, rescue kitten! Wish I could stay, but my rescue kitten wants attention right now. Well, you go give that rescue kitten attention right now. Needs it. Since I'm emulating an MMORPG setting where people are going to be in character as a 1,000-year-old elf, and some people are not. I don't normally pay attention to those modern sounding phrasing except for okay, yeah. But it stood out so much to me in TSC and TSS. Like, it really bothered me there. And I think the problem with TSS and TSC is that they talk like they're in a fantasy book. And then in the next sentence, they talk like they're a modern punk on the street. And you're just like, the whiplash. it's way more noticeable because there's no consistency. So it's like we're reading along and he sounds like a regal king from a fantasy story, and then he calls someone a little bitch, and you're just like, excuse you? Don't you mean a cowardly knave? Hello? Oh my gosh, you guys are chatting so much I can't keep up, which is a good problem to have. Tell your kitten we said hi and give them extra loves. Yes. World building is so fun. Sometimes I put off the actual story just to spend more time in the world. That is not something that I do. World building is like my least favorite part. It's getting better. I'm getting better at world building, but it's not my favorite part. Sometimes names come with the characters. Sometimes I gotta hop over to the fantasy name generator. I have used that as well. Sometimes I just arrange letters until they look right if it's a fantasy name. List of names I want to use, and whenever I meet a new character, I end up getting a whole new name anyway, and the list goes unused. My favorite names websites to use are Nameberry and Behind the Name. Oh, I've used Behind the Name. Also, I hate surnames, which has been so helpful. Yeah, surnames I always have to just use a generator. What, please, not that book again. No. To which book are you referring? Oh, TSC. Huh. Oh, and the new one's going to be coming out. I really need to go to her website and see if she has a sample of the Savior's Army yet, because I need to read it for you all. And in fact, I might, depending on when the Savior's Army comes out, I might have to put off the read along of The Sun and Its Shade, because I got to keep up now with the TSC series. It is my brand at this point. Yes, it was like pick one, I think, referring to the language, or have some characters speak one way and others the other to show how they have different personalities and all that. Yeah, no, Jenna's characters all have the same voice, and it is her voice, all of them. Nameberry also has good similar names to X function. Oh, that's useful. I like to build a cast of characters more than I like to build the world, though sometimes the worlds are fun. I'm more like you. I like the characters better. The worlds are tangential to the characters. They need to live somewhere. I tend to build worlds for characters. I've talked about this before. All of my fantasy books take place in slightly different worlds. I'm not one of those people like, say, Terry Pratchett, who just stays in one world. I invent a new world for every group of characters because it feels like building them a home, and that's their home. And then I go build somebody else a new home. Maybe I'll start to mix them up, and maybe I'll start to put characters into worlds, but they're kind of all just like different dimensions. Some of them have low magic, some of them have lots of magic, some of them, they all have creatures, but those creatures are all different. The rules are different. So, yeah. I'm sorry, Dal. It's coming. The Savior's Army is coming, and there's nothing we can do about it. Well, there is, but I don't intend to. I totally get that world building isn't for everyone, but I like writing stories where the world is important to the plot and the characters. I like making my characters from different cultures and lands. I do love exploring cultures in my books. Culture building is way more exciting to me than just world building in general, because culture is connected to the characters, and the characters are what I like to be doing. So there are TSA snippets on Tumblr. There's a non-binary character, so that's going to be exciting to witness. Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh my goodness. I have some non-binary friends. I'm going to need to be like talking to them and be like, how terrible is this? Please tell me. So bad at world building because a lot of it is so visual. Can't, after 3 chapters, I get overwhelmed. Yeah, obviously, I can't help with that because I'm a sighted person, so I'm not useful with the not describing stuff part, but the culture is more exciting to me anyway. So, like, what are the people doing and why? What is their religion? What gods do they believe in, and why do they believe that? Like, how did their culture come about? That I'm really into that. My sci-fi world is built for the characters, but like making them share countries and cultures and differences. For me, world comes first. I wanted representation, but at what cost? Yeah. No. I think us those of us who are asexual, I think we're safe. I think we're safe because the Savior's Champion world is just like wall to wall horniness, which is funny because I think is she ace? Is she on the ace spectrum? I can't remember, and I don't want to like say it and then have her not be. I thought at one point Jenna said that she was on the ace spectrum, but I could be misremembering, so do not quote me on this. But it's just her book is so horny, so I cannot imagine that aces will ever be in danger of being in her book. Hopefully, but yeah, no, run. No previews for TSA on her website. I just looked. That's rubbish. She gave us a preview for TSS, and I read it. Hey, you were using they, them on a character. Are they non-binary? Yep, me. Oh no. Whoa. Danger. TSA is Savior's Army. Yep, the Savior's Army is the third book, and Jenna Moreci is the Savior's Champion series, which I have decided to make my identity. When I read the first one, I did not know what was in store. And then I read the second one, which was just the first one again. So I'm excited to read, hopefully, a new book and not just the previous book again. Because why? Why? There's more. Yeah, she plans, according to her, to write like a 16-book series or something. She has got this whole thing. I'm dubious that she's going to make it because she's still, as much as she gives writing advice and things like that, to my knowledge, to my understanding from her videos, what was it? Eve the Awakening was the very first book that she ever finished. And then she wrote The Savior's Champion. So I'm dubious that she's going to be able to write in the same world, the same characters, everything for such a long series. That is a lot to keep up that momentum. Like, I think she shouldn't lock herself down like that. She should allow herself more freedom to write other stuff, other worlds. Don't promise people the giant long Game of Thrones if you can't maintain Game of Thrones. That's why I do mostly standalones, because I know that I will, even with more experience than Jenna, I will not have the chutzpah, the interest to do 16 books in a series. I just don't. I cannot stay in the same world for 16 books. Absolutely not. I've heard her say she's demisexual. I have a great memory, so can confirm she's ace spec. Okay. It's weird to me that her book is so horny, but like, who am I to judge? You know what? There are horny asexuals. Just because some of us are less into the horniness doesn't mean that all of us are. Much as book 3 is just book 1 from yet another point of view. She's running out of characters we're supposed to like, so maybe it could be interesting. Like, could this one please be Cosima's point of view? When I first heard about the Savior Sister, I was like, oh, is this going to be Cosima's point of view? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so hyped. And then it was just Layla. And I was like, but she's not the Savior Sister. She's the Savior. So, that is wrong. And then Cosima got shat all over again. And I was like, no, not my baby girl. Not my sweet Cosima. So you're saying like an 8-book series, split it in 2. Yeah, don't turn into George R.R. Martin. I kind of feel sorry for George R.R. Martin because now he's stuck. He clearly wants to write something else. So clearly. But if he writes something else, everybody's going to murder him in his sleep. So he's just stuck and he can't write anything. So don't promise people a big long series, whatever you do. It's a terrible idea because if you can't maintain it, then what? He also doesn't stay in the story for long, so it'll be short, right? Oh, we're talking about who are we talking about? Some character who probably gets killed. I thought the same that TSS would be about Cosmo. Yeah, I was so disappointed. I was disappointed. I was like, that's brave of her. She actually is going to make it about a character she doesn't like. And then it was just Layla again. Hello, Alec. Started a book based on the basic idea of the savior stuff, with there being an actual competition to win the princess's heart, and the MC is a himbo farm boy, as it should be. For a hot minute, what's her channel's name? Oh, I can't remember. Oh, Year of the Author. I think her name is Catherine sounds right. She was kind of doing like a sort of humorous rewrite of the Savior's Champion, with the main character as like an overweight cook, and I was like, I loved it. I loved that idea of him, like this person who does not fit the chiseled buff archetype, whose skills are not murder and looking good. I mean, he could look good too, but you know what I mean. He's not here all like oily and muscular. He's baking a cake like a real man. And so I love that idea, and I kind of want to write that idea someday. I've got 8 million other things to write, but plot twist: the plot of the Savior's Army is about Layla needing money, so she sells Tobias to BTS. No, Layla would probably just be like, what is her one sister's name? Is Delphi? Delphi, go out and earn me some money. What, you don't want to do that? Too bad. You work for me. Off you go. Off you go. Stop complaining. What do you mean you want to have a life? Get out of here. Have you all heard of unresolved textual tension? Yes, I liked them before they were cool. Commented on some of their very first videos, and I was like, you guys rock. And they're like, oh, we're not as cool as you. And then their numbers just like shot up way past me. And I'm like, there you go. I knew it was coming. Like they have very fun videos. Layla gets into an MLM. Layla gets into Bitcoin. Not as into them as other bad book readers. I do love their channel, but I kind of for me, I have to be familiar with the book. So like if they're talking about a book I'm not familiar with, I struggle to follow it. So if I'm familiar with the book, I love to watch the videos, and I'll even watch them more than once. But there are definitely some that I haven't watched because I'm not familiar with the book. And for whatever reason, the way that they describe books is a little bit too scattered for me, and I can't keep track of like the plot. So I have to be familiar with it. Crow Collar is great. I also follow Crow Collar and all of her videos. It's great. And it's got a niche where she talks about a lot of those angel books or whatever. And I never even read any of those, but I'm like, I don't care. Tell me about the dumb angel books. Watched the Labyrinth movie the other day. So much love, but it made me wish for a proper Labyrinth in TSC even more. Yeah. Yeah. I have a cosplay of Jareth the Goblin King. I can do a pretty mean dance magic dance. They grow up so fast. They do. All these other channels. Crimson Rogue is coming out with I didn't know it was 7 hours. I follow him on Twitter, and he was posting about like a super long video coming out, but 7 hours, that is approaching like my length of videos, but he didn't split it up. He just straight through. Holy shit, I didn't even know YouTube allowed you to put up 7-hour videos. That's like, oh my god, my mind is a little bit exploding because that is so much to have just all in one video. I would definitely break that up. As we know, because I do. Love to watch bad books about video, or bad videos about books. Bad books. Videos about bad books. English is my native tongue. And I lost it because I can't speak. I'm still shook from the 7 hours thing. I'm so bad at reading, and I love to hear about bad books. I can't read them myself. Oh my goodness. I read the word tomorrow and immediately started choking. So I guess I know we're doing a work day around the property tomorrow, picking up just like garbage and stuff because the previous owners, fun fact, left so much shit all over. There's like couches out in the grass, there's tires everywhere. The whole property is covered in crap. So we're doing a work day tomorrow. And now I know what I'm listening to for my work day. Someday I hope that secretly I hope that he will also notice, Crimson Rogue will also notice my channel and come check out my read along so we can be like, hey, we're friends. He has not noticed my channel as far as I know. When are you planning to save the 7-hour video for the next week to watch during work? Even if I don't give it into morbid curiosity first. Yeah. I think the reason I like to split them up is, to me, it seems like it's easier to come back and watch more if it's split up. If it's one video, I might forget about it. I might forget that I was watching it. It's harder for me to like stop and come back. Like, what if YouTube forgets how far I got? I don't know. I don't trust YouTube. So it feels easier to me to have like several videos of like an hour in length versus one 7-hour video. But then again, maybe I'm just imagining the chugging sounds and the smoke that would be coming out of my computer if I tried to render a 7-hour video. I think my old computer would probably just explode and that would be it. Burn the house down. I think he's breaking it into a couple parts. I hope so. I mean, he can do whatever he wants, but 7 hours, holy balls. There's a channel that read all of the, I don't know, what is that? What do the letters represent? I'm dumb. It's 33 hours long. Yeah. 2 professional writers suffering through Chuck Wendig's 1001 writing tips. Woof. Do you know about James Toulos? I'm squinting at you again. He's the epitome of loving bad books. I think I am familiar. I think I'm subscribed. The Song of Ice and Fire. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't actually know that much about Game of Thrones. It doesn't interest me. It's too masculine fantasy. Does that make sense? I don't know. There's a certain quality of some epic fantasy, usually written by men, not necessarily always, where I'm just like, it's not going to hold my interest. Nope. No, we've almost been talking for an hour. I don't know how long the stream is going to go, just until we're bored. Or the dog needs to go potty, whichever comes first. The way I bookmark long videos is I get those share links where it links to a particular time and then send them to myself on Discord. That's smart. Too grimdark for me. I like fluff. You'll like my books then if you haven't already checked them out. They're not all fluff, but like they are not grimdark. I kind of agree. Yeah. Stretch. Everybody stretch. You've been sitting for too long. We need to stretch. There we go. Make my back pop 8,000 times. Still abbreviated like Asoyef. That's harder to pronounce. Like some of them are really pretty convenient, like Akatar, but some of them not so much. Adventure of Mage is AM, but everybody then just thinks you're talking about a time of day. So the latest discourse on Twitter that I saw right before I got on here was people talking about arcs. And if you receive an arc, but you don't do a review, then you're basically stealing, which is very silly. And I'm pretty sure people who post those kind of hot takes just know that their take is kind of bullshit and they're using the outrage to fuel the algorithm. That's my theory, because like, what a ridiculous idea. But I do think people are talking about it. It works. Lots of people are talking about it. So this person is going to get a lot of attention. And Twitter is a trash fire right now. So like, as much as you can feed the algorithm, you do. But it's like, seriously, we're getting desperate here. Some of my title initialisms are fun. Glances at my bad YA title generator. All you need for your bad YA titles is a a noun of nouns and nouns or something like that. A place of object and object. I hate those so much, but they work for people, not me, but for other people. They do seem to work. And I hate it. The noun of noun and noun. Yep. And then on the covers all look the same. They all look the same. And I hate that too. It's just like maybe some vines, probably a dagger. Very little hinting at what the book is actually about on the cover. It's just like cool visual stuff. Almost always vines, actually. Probably with thorns. Almost always a dagger. What else? Snakes sometimes. Maybe a nice amulet. It's who? Optimus Prime? Roses. Roses are a plus, or flowers of some kind. Sometimes they're like a different flower. Made me so sad because I'm not in the book world much, but my working title for my story uses the formula, and then I realized it was the thing. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Because it is the thing. And I'm not one to talk because apparently I'm bad at titles, but I don't care. I like my titles, and other people might not like them, and that's okay. Don't have to like my titles. Most people don't pick a book only based on the title, so hopefully they will look further than just like, I don't like that title. I barely even look at titles actually when I'm like picking a book, because usually I'll have it like have had it recommended or something, or I'll have seen it on YouTube and I'll be like, I need to look that up and find out what that is. I don't like to make something until I have a title. Bad at coming up with titles. Titles still got to be fancy to be good. Yeah. Somebody told me that I shouldn't call my book Adventurer Mage, because adventurer and mage are just kind of very ordinary, plain words that like don't seem to tell you a lot about the book, but they do. It's in the book. It matters to the book, but you do have to read the book to know why it matters. And maybe those aren't the most enticing words ever, but I'm like, I've tried to think of other titles that it could be, and I'm like, no, it's Adventurer Mage. That's what it is. Even if it's a little bit boring. Squinting at you guys again. Working titles for my documents are just main character story. Take me forever to come up with titles, but I'm so proud of them. A Court of Misery and Sexual Tension. Love a good duology title tie-in, if that makes sense. How is there a fruit fly in here? It's Wisconsin and it's still stupidly cold, but there's a fruit fly and it found me and I don't understand. If you see me waving my hand, it's because there's a single fruit fly in this house and it's here. Most of my file names are just noun story until I get a real working title. A lot of mine do start out that way, yeah. And then I'll forget like what random thing I called it, and I'll try to find the story again. I'll be like, what did I call this? Especially short stories. Like my short stories a lot of times don't get titles. So it'll just be like the subject of the short story, like horror story. And then I'll be trying to find it again. And I'm like, what did I name it? Current work title is This Might As Well Happen. How do you guys feel about writing multiple POVs? How do you feel about writing multiple POVs? I'm on board. I don't like to do it personally, but it's not because I think they're bad. I just personally prefer to write in a single POV, although in Adventure of Mage 3, there are two POVs, Valentine and Maeve, because they're separated from each other for a while, so it makes sense. I don't like having multiple POVs when the two characters are together, because I feel like then you just kind of get redundant. To me, obviously other people could do it, but I feel like I get redundant. So I usually try to have it be because they're separate from each other. Some of my favorite titles from my stories are Do You Know Where Children Are? And Don't Say I Told You So, and Death on the 4th of July. That one sounds like the classic cozy murder mystery. I also have Untitled 1 up to Untitled 32. Yeah. I'm the only one who has the title idea with the small idea of the concept for the story and when I begin writing it. A lot of times if it's a book, a lot of times I do know the title starting out, and then I become too attached to it to change the title later. I don't mind. I don't like writing multiple POVs, but I don't mind reading it. I think, like everything else in writing, if you're doing multiple POVs, there should be a good reason for it. But that's everything in the book. There should be a reason for it. So why do you need multiple POVs? What is it giving to your story? What is it doing for your story that single POV could not do? I like them. They're fun to read when it's clear that we're switching POVs. And it can deliver a ton of emotional gut punches, but I also get nervous doing them myself. Yeah, it is interesting to get in the head of the other character when you've been in one character's head for a while. We are exclusively in Maeve's point of view through Adventure of Mage 1 and 2, and we only get Valentine's in 3. And putting myself in his headspace is so different from Maeve's, and it was kind of startling, because I get all of his feelings now about her and their relationship, and she's kind of standoffish and a little bit more insular, and he's very expressive, and just he absolutely adores her, and it's just the brunt of his love essentially was startling to write from, because I can put myself very much into a character's head, and it was just oh my goodness, dude. I get it. Read a book with so many POVs, and every chapter it changed the other POV. It was confusing. Yeah, I could see that being confusing. And if you're not good at differentiating characters, I definitely have read some where the two characters that we were following, they had the same voice, they had the same mannerisms, they were the same person wearing a different hat, basically, or the same person but a different gender, usually is what happens. Multi is fun both ways for me. They just have to be very different people. Yeah, for sure. I'm either one POV or alternating between two, or bouncing amongst the ensemble. All three of my MCs are in separate places, and it's nice to take a break from the character story to work with another one. Yeah. Fortunately, the author had the criticism and then changed the POVs was dialed down. Oh, that's good. Important info for everyone. Night in Zagreb by Adam, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, is actually Chain of Information? I don't understand that. Yeah, I'm really bad at character voice, so I feel like trying multiple POVs would just spotlight the fact that everyone talks the same. And in multiple POVs, it's not just that they sound the same, it's that they think the same. It's that they make the same choices and reactions. Character voice, we often think of just the way that they talk, but character voice encompasses a whole bunch of things about a character, including the way that they think, the way that they react, the way that they make choices. Maeve has a lot of internal monologue. She's very in her own head. And when I got to Valentine, I'm like, does he do that? Does he do that the same as her? And then I realized that she is the voice in his head. So he doesn't talk to himself in his head as much as she does, by far. But when he does, it's her. So that was interesting. Just even figuring out the character's different internal monologues is cool and something to do with multiple POV. How do they think? How do they emote? all of that stuff. There's a book about where the POVs were never used more than once, but I didn't remember what it was called. I feel like I'm good at character voice, but bad at gauging my own skills. I like to think of it as character cadence. That's a good way to think of it. Yeah, but a book where POVs are never used more than once. I've heard of a couple of those. I think they would drive me crazy because I like to follow one character. Although I did read one a while back, and I thought it was well done. But can I remember what it was? No, I cannot. One of my characters thinks a lot, and the other character doesn't think at all, and it's a fun time for conflict. Yeah. And Maeve also has anxiety like I do, and sometimes it's difficult to get across like her anxiety to the reader because she builds things up in her head like to an extreme degree that she doesn't actually need to worry about because anxiety, hello. And then she'll finally get to the situation and it won't be nearly as bad as she thought it was going to be, and then the reader will be like, well, you built it up so much. I'm like, no, she built it up so much because she has anxiety. But like, I need to remember to rein that in the story, because in a story, your reader is like looking for things to matter. So it's like a really difficult balance to walk of making her realistically have anxiety, but also not like dragging the reader into thinking something's going to be really important just because she and her anxiety brain thinks that it's important. Definitely going to be something I'm working on with beta readers and such. The perfect duo. One has all the thoughts and the other has no thoughts, head empty. Yeah. The brain cells are not evenly divided. And definitely giving them different skill sets too is helpful for writing multiple POVs. So like Maeve and Valentine have very different skill sets. She's an introvert. He's an extrovert. He likes to talk to people. He's good at bluffing. She is not. So like giving them very different skill sets from each other can also help you writing in their voice, because that they will not behave the way that the other character does, because it's just antithetical to them. Like they are not that way. That's not a skill set that they have. My book will have two POV, with one principal POV and the second will have one paragraph at the end of some chapters, because the final chapters are in the second POV, so it isn't out of nowhere. That's an interesting way to do it. I'll have to see how that, you'll have to report back and let me know how that works, how that's received. If people are like, hey, wait a minute, I know why you gave this character a little POV. Is this because you wanted to use them in the end? I'm on to you, writer. But also, like, I don't know. I'm kind of like weird about POVs, because sometimes I will throw like a random one into a story, and because like I need their point of view, and like the information is best given from their point of view, and then like you'll never have their point of view again. And like some people are like, no, you can't do that. You got to have their point of view more than once. And I'm like, says who? I'll do what I want. It's my book. At the end of Adventure Room Age 2, there's a point of view from a character whose point of view we have not gotten before. And just to let you know what happens to that character. There's not really a good way for you to know what happens to that character unless you see it in their point of view. Like they could write a letter to the other main characters and tell them, but that's less interesting than watching it happen. So it's in her point of view, and her we don't need her point of view at any other point in the story, so we don't have it. And we'll see. That book hasn't gone to my betas yet, so we'll see how much my betas hate that and adjust for fire from there. By reading this book, you are joining the chain of information. What is going on? I don't understand what's going on. That's fine. I like giving them different skill sets and such. Like they're all smart, but one is book smart and one is people smart and one is fighting smart or whatever. Yeah, different skill sets is definitely a good way to go. Get the desire. I tend to limit myself to 1 or 2 POVs, and in the background subplots have to be secondhand. Yeah. And it's like a lot of times you got to do it secondhand, but sometimes I'm just like, nah, it works better. It's more engaging to the reader if they actually get it from the character. Here you go. The Adventurer Mage had 1 or 2 from the brothers' POV, right? Oh yeah, I did change that. I'm still getting used to it. It's my own book, but that wasn't in the original draft with the villain's point of view. It does come into Adventurer Mage now 3 times, and just to kind of get a feel for them. Like, it's not strictly speaking necessary, and I kind of had mixed, like, it was pretty much 50-50 of people who liked them because it characterized the villains, and people who didn't like them because you don't strictly speaking need it for the story. So I decided to leave it in because I'm always on the side of characterization, so you can get to know the villains a little bit better, even though it's not completely necessary. And, sometimes you just got to know in your story that you've put in something, that you made a choice for your book that not everybody's going to love, and you just got to be okay with that. So I know that some people are probably going to be like, why are these here? These don't need to be here. And I'll be like, yeah, they don't need to be there, but also it's interesting to characterize the villains, in my opinion. Get to know them a little bit more, because I like to write human characters, even the bad guys. So even though they are pretty irredeemable, you still kind of know a little bit why, or at least you can infer a little bit why they are that way. That was cool to read. It was nice seeing you change your voice. Yeah, the brothers don't really have internal monologue like Maeve does at all. So that was, interesting, because I occasionally start to write it and then be like, no, they don't think like that. They don't have that kind of introspection. They don't fight with themselves in their own heads. Also, I like having varying characters, even when I only have one POV. Yeah, I mean, like, as many different types of characters you can get, the better. That's why characterization is important, because a character who grew up isolated from everyone wouldn't realistically be good at understanding people. Yeah. And I mean, with the villains in Adventurer Mage, like, you can kind of gather why they are such douchebags. You don't forgive them, presumably, for their douchebaggery, but you kind of are like, oh, yeah. They're still assholes, but yeah, that's the goal anyway. Yeah, flesh out the world too, how they saw the magic system and how it contrasts with the leads and how they shape the world and stuff. Yeah, that's the hope anyway. Villains are humans? Gasp, Jenna Moresi probably. Yeah. Jenna has absolutely no interest in humanizing her villains. She is of the mistaken idea that humanizing the villain will give them a redemption arc somehow, and she doesn't really like redemption arcs. And I'm like, Thomas Briard does not get a redemption arc. He is an ass with absolutely no interest in redeeming himself. But you can still understand why he's an ass, even as you go, I hate that guy. At least hopefully. Hopefully I get that across in the book, because something made him that way. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to call you Kevin, but I suspect that you may be trying to spam us, but you're not saying anything against my channel rules, so carry on. But as soon as you start telling me that there's a sacred chain of information, I'm going to tone right out, because I grew up in the days of, like, chain emails, and yeah, we all know. How about first person MC and third person close for other POVs? Personally, I don't switch, but I've seen it done well. I've seen it done okay. It's good to understand villains because it helps recognize it in ourselves so we don't fall down the path, because everyone has flaws and vices. Yeah, and can kind of, like, also just kind of helps us understand other people in the world, and, like, maybe somebody that you hate can be like, you're still a shit person, but I guess I know why you're a shit person, probably. And that helps sometimes. Wasn't there a thing about how villains should be seen as people and not nebulous exactly? For people's opinions on writing villains. Personally, I don't have it like having a designated bad people, but I'm all for shades of morality. Yeah, there's definitely a place, in my opinion, for just like an evil entity. Like those can be fun in the right kind of book. I'm not one of those people who's like every single villain must have a deep, meaningful backstory. It depends on the villain. You know, you've got your super evil Saurons. He's not going to be redeemable, but that's okay. It works for the kind of book that he's in. But like there are other books where humanizing or understanding the villain is kind of important to the world and the plot. So it's just kind of, it's up to what your story needs. All right, y'all, we've almost been going for almost an hour and a half, so we're probably going to wrap up pretty soon. I like having villains resemble IRL villains without making them redemptive necessarily or digging into their roots. Yeah. Sometimes there aren't proper villains in my stories, and some of my stories just have things happen to people. I don't usually set out to be like, this is going to be the villain, and then I just kind of figure out who the bad people are. Sometimes I do have a villain. It just it varies a lot by story. Sometimes I don't have any villain. Sometimes the villain is very clear. But to me, that I hate stories that advertise the tropes on tropes alone, like enemies to lovers, redemption arc, only one bad dark fantasy romance. Yeah, I think people forget that the thing about tropes is you can't just plop it into the book. You actually have to do something with it. Like tropes are great. Love to use them, but use them in an interesting way. I was talking to somebody because I've also got like those like coaching sessions, those writer chat sessions that you can get with me on Ko-fi and probably pretty soon on Fiverr as well. I love doing those, by the way. Those are so fun. So like commission one if you want to chat like one-on-one. But we were talking about the not like other girls trope, and like the person was like, hey, I know you don't like this trope. Why? And I'm like, actually, when I say I don't like that trope, what I mean is I don't like how lazy people are being with that trope. So when I point out like I'm not like other girls, I'm not saying don't ever use that trope. I'm saying this person is being very lazy with this trope. They think if they just make their main character just like stereotypically not girly, that's good enough. That's all the work they need to put into it. They're a likable character now because I did the stereotype thing. And it's like, no, you got to use the trope, work with the trope. Come on now. Help me here. Going to bed. Yeah, I should go to bed too. But hi, Lisa. Ugly trope marketing is so bad right now. Yeah. Someone who loves a good trope is driving me crazy. Yeah, I love a good trope too, honestly. But I wish that people would do interesting things with them. One story with a bunch of tropes and themes that I loved, but they mishandled all the tropes, so I hated it extra for portraying me. It's like Mad Libs. Ooh, reptilian aliens. We do love some reptilian aliens. Anybody watch? They made a new series, but there was an old series, I think in the 80s, called V. And I love 80s movies and TV. So I loved it, but it had lizard aliens disguised as people. But they did a lot of interesting things with it. Like for a cheesy 80s sci-fi, yeah, it was interesting. I liked it. There were some elements where I was like, that genuinely I really liked. I was like, I see what you're doing. And then it like got canceled, so there's no ending. It just stops. But I really liked it. I did not like the remake, but I really liked the original V series. Go check it out if you're into like 80s sci-fi, which I very much am. If you're curious, oh yeah, you Googled Night in Zagreb. It's a mystery theory series that involves conspiracy theory about reptilian. Oh yeah, we were talking about that, reptilian aliens with weird religious tones. Cool. St. George did supposedly kill the dragon. I used to be Catholic. Fun fact. Not no more, but I used to be. All right. seems like we might be winding down, but it was really fun talking about writing with everybody. I'm glad everybody was so talkative and chatty. That's cool. That's basically what I was hoping for. I'm like, I want to talk about writing with people and I want to talk about books with people. And then you guys came and we talked about writing and books. So that was yay. But I think perhaps an hour and a half is probably a decent length. So unless we have any last things we want to chat about, I will probably let you go. I'm such a Wisconsinite. Does anybody else say I'm gonna let you go when you hang up the phone or whatever? Well, I'm gonna let you go. Slap your thigh is important. I wanted to ask about character voice, but it might be a good idea to take this chat out behind the chemical shed and shoot it for the night. I'll take it into the back 40 with the couches and the tires. I'm hyped for another one. I like talking aimlessly with people. Maybe I'll do it again when I have like some energy zipping around. Bye, everybody. It was a good time. I'm thinking I might do a drawing stream soon, so keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, have a good night, everybody. I'll see you around the channel. Bye.